You are listening to More Than a Sniff, a weekly podcast of Western States Canine College. I'm Joe, owner and principal trainer here with my colleagues Chris, Michelle, and Shannon. Today, we are going to talk about giving, I guess the topic is more about being firm and what that really means and everything that you hear out there from giving corrections to discipline to yanking and jerking to, in general, being firm. And with being firm, I think the biggest thing that people need to understand is just because you hear all those words doesn't mean that it's cruel and unusual punishment, and that being firm creates discipline, creates routines. And so, Michelle, I'm going to just turn over some time to you and talk about what does being firm with your dogs and then being firm even with our clients and working clients' dogs. What is that? And when I say firm, being firm, I'm talking really about correction, giving correction.
So correction in simpler terms, I would say is anything that is showing your dog that what they're doing is wrong. Even if that is just calling them, I think that's a correction. Like if they're running away from you, calling them, it's just a simple, that's what it is. So it doesn't have to be cruel or mean or anything like that. It's any kind of correction is just is telling them, hey, giving them information, I guess is what the word I'm getting at here.
Yeah.
To be firm for me and our clients' dogs is definitely different than what I do with my own dogs. That being said, it's because my dogs, I like to come home and squish them, where clients are paying me to have their dogs be corrected in the proper way.
Yep.
So I totally understand that it's going to be different for you hiring us to be a dog trainer versus what we expect you to even do as a correction.
What feedback do you get from clients when just simply saying no to a dog?
I mean, the word no is kind of hard for me just because dogs don't understand English. Mm-hmm. So this is how I like to tell my clients like what a correction is and stuff is your dog doesn't know English. And just like your kids, so your kids do understand English, so you can tell them no. But with a dog, there has got to be something other than just the word. There has to be some kind of physical correction. You don't even have to be actually physical. Mm-hmm. It's got to be a presence, a body language of some kind for them to actually understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So, Chris, I'm gonna turn the time over to you and ask you a question about being firm. Is being firm, is it okay?
Sure. Yeah, I guess I always look at disciplining. It's my own personal philosophy on discipline. Is not all things in life are nice. They're not. When you get pulled over for speeding or running a stoplight, the policeman isn't going to say, "Hey, good job, do it again." You're going to get a ticket. Maybe you're going to get a warning. But regardless, the point I'm making here is life in general is not it's not. I don't know what I'm trying to say there. We don't look at this. I don't look at discipline as being abusive, and I certainly, I guess if you look at the children's lives, one child got spanked once. Well, that was for biting somebody's face, biting her brother's face. And in that case, I felt like it was very warranted. For our dogs, I feel really spoiled And it's easy to look back on our animals' lives and through rose-colored glasses, and and as Bora is our oldest dog, our German Shepherd, I have to think back to the first and maybe second year ish of his life, and I remember disciplining him when and that the discipline is a range, so it's not, oh, I grab you and shake you. That's not discipline. What discipline is I believe it equals the situation that you're in. So something that comes to mind as I think about Bora and his puppyhood, year day 0 through year 2, when we would go up and practice sit stays at the school, a form of discipline was if I moved from standing beside him to walk out maybe a 10-foot radius around him and he moved, I would replace him back in the same spot that I put him in the first time. That's discipline. Mm-hmm. If I have to do it a second time, it's going to be a firmer grab, a firmer stay right there. My voice is going to change. Mm-hmm. In any of these cases, it's not okay, obviously, to take out your aggression or anger in an abusive way. On the other hand, and I'll start with a disclaimer here. If you are ever presented with in an environment where there's a dog fight and you haven't been around a dog fight before, it's a very it's a very tumultuous experience. It's one that you won't soon forget, especially if it's something that you haven't been around. Discipline in a case like that, where perhaps out of the 4 of us in this room, we would intervene in a dog fight where we probably would not recommend that for a client.
Right.
Yep. Don't put yourself in that situation if it's not something that you have been in before. Yep. But in a dog fight, 9 times out of 10, the dog isn't going to die. It's very loud and it's crazy. But it's not. In most cases, one of the dogs won't die. In many cases, it's a corrective experience for a dog. From dog to dog, they're disciplining one another. In whatever case that is, maybe you come over and you're checking out my dinner, and some dogs really get crazy about dinner, and they don't go around my bone, don't go around my food, don't go around my toy, don't go around my person. And they assert themselves as well. But if you see a dog fight, we've talked about this before in another episode, where I was much more aggressive in some of these scenarios. I was meeting the not activity level, but the energy that the aggressive dog was presenting to me. And in that case, I what I'm comparing and contrasting here is I'm working on discipline with Bora in a sit stay, and I'm putting him back in place, a form of discipline. On the other hand, I'm presented in a dog fight for whatever reason in whatever scenario, and my behavior is going to change dramatically. Sure. But in general, do I believe in discipline? I do believe in discipline and balance as well.
I think that, one thing that people should really take from all of this is balance and needing balance in life. Good, the bad, the ugly, the nice, there has to be a balance for anybody to absorb and comprehend and understand. If you're going to be firm, you got to be firm to the energy, not being firm to your frustration or your anger with the animal. And I say to the animal because we just got back from the horse vet, and he said, I always appreciate people that understand that sometimes you just have to be firm. And what it came down to was the colt was walking into a chute for one of his vaccinations, and he put on the brakes, which he never does. And I was firm about it. I didn't give in. I didn't have a conversation. I didn't pull out cookies to get him through there. He's been in there. He's fine. He knows he's fine. And it took a light pull on his halter, and he came. But I didn't give in. I didn't stop because he stopped. And he just, the veterinarian's like, I just really appreciate people that get it. And therefore we have well-behaved horses, we have well-behaved dogs, we even have a well-behaved cat, because we create balance and it makes sense. So Shannon, I'm going to have you describe to me, you went through a little situation with Louie, and what if the only training that you ever knew was giving Louie treats for good behavior? And so describe your situation that happened a week or so ago, and then describe what you think that would look like if all you knew was food-based reward, that we don't do anything firm.
So my dog, it never had a mom, and so he didn't have a doggy mom to teach him manners about being aggressive, let's say. Yeah. So he has aggressive reactions towards all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. If you try to take his food away, if you move his dog bed to the other side of the room, if you go to put on your shoe, and you just sometimes, they just come out of the blue. So the other day, he was running around in the spring lovely yard and came in with mud all over him. So my husband was home. He picked up his foot to clean the mud off his foot, and Louie did not like that and snapped at Mike to bite him. So I have no idea how I would train a dog to not bite people if all I could do was give him treats for not being aggressive. Yeah. Because there's no way to break the aggressive cycle by just wait for him to not be angry and then give him treats. He'd never understand what the treat was associated with. Yeah. And he would never stop he wouldn't understand that it's my job as the dog mom of the family to take the food bowls and put them in the dishwasher. Those bowls are mine. He can use them, but when I need to take them and put them in the dishwasher, they're my bowls for me. They're my bowls for me all the time, and he just gets to use them, right? So if I couldn't use discipline to help him understand that those bowls are mine, I would never be able to get my bowls back. I'd have to trick him. You should never trick your dog, because it breaks the connection of trust between you. And I feel like I would have to trick him to get anything away from him ever. And I don't agree with that at all. So I'd much rather use discipline to help him know, this blanket is mine. These bowls are mine. Your foot, when it has mud on it, is mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
One thing that I want to add with Bora, our oldest, he gets super excited for dinner time, but it manifests itself in very annoying behaviors, where he's just constantly walking up and down, going in circles. And at times, it just drives me nuts. And a form of discipline is, Bora, knock it off. Now, to save the audience from yelling in the microphone here, it's, raise your voice, knock it off, clap my hands, scoot. And he knows that, okay, well, he's not very happy, hang the head, go lay down. But it's communicating with your dog in such a way that you're not happy. And I would like to believe that within a pack, when a dog, even from day one, the mother is communicating with the puppies. And if the puppies are doing something that is outside of, pack behavior or whatever that communication is, the mother corrects the puppies. And this may sound at times like the puppies are going to die, but guess what? They're not. It's a much different communication from dog to dog, and that's why we also find that many times in training, the pack, a well-balanced pack, can have a bigger impact on a problem dog than human training can have.
Right. Yeah. Michelle, do you feel like your dogs are happy?
Absolutely, of course, yeah.
And do you have rules and expectations, and do you discipline them every day?
I mean, in ways, yes, I believe so, absolutely. I mean, we definitely have routines, and if they're not in those routines, just like Chris said with Bora, it's a problem, and they're going to know about it.
Right. And how do you know that they're happy?
I have very well balanced dogs, I think. And by saying that is, I don't know. I mean, they just are. They don't create chaos in our house. We have a very peaceful house. We are calm. They are calm. And you can definitely tell when that gets interrupted and they're not happy. We can tell. I mean, it's definitely a mood change, through everybody. Just like they have to learn to read our body language, we have to learn to read theirs and how they're feeling.
Yep.
So,
yeah. I want to ask Shannon, do you use food to teach Louie?
Yes. I use food to teach him how to do tricks, behaviors like that, but not for, like, don't chew on my shoes. Not for, let me take your blanket out of your kennel. Not for those kind of things. So, some dogs are just not motivated by food. And I had a dog that was not motivated by food at all, and I had no idea how to train him because at the time, all the books and all the information out there was you have to train your dog using positive reinforcement of giving food. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a dog that's like so into food that it will do anything, and you're only using that method, you cannot teach them. So you have to expand your library of techniques. I had a dog that was so motivated by food, I thought I could teach him to read. Yeah. And then when you have one that's not, and you don't have help, you don't know what to do. Right. So I mix my techniques to teach Louie.
I've had the opposite where there's dogs that are so food driven that you can't teach them anything when food is around. Because all they want and all they're focused on is their food. And they'll go through the actions of laying down and sitting and getting to your side and going to their bed, but nothing sticks. Like nothing sticks whatsoever because they're just going through the actions because they are that food. It's food. I got to put it in my mouth versus what can I do for that food? They just fixate on the food and you can't. It doesn't stick. You just constantly feel like you're using food all the time. So a little bit of firm behavior and the food doesn't come out until we get the behavior definitely works. So, we talked about being firm, giving discipline, correcting your dogs, and you have to look at it back to being in a family. Your dog is a dog in the family. They're not a human being in the family, but they're still in a family dynamic. And I believe that every family has some form of discipline or some form of being firm with each other. And, kids get told no. Kids get things taken away. In driving, there's all kinds of negative stuff happening all the time. That's firm stuff. That's to make sure that we're safe. And I think that looking at, you can train with food, you can train and teach, but you also have to be firm. You also have to have discipline to find the balance that you need. Michelle, what's one of the biggest frustrations that you have when you're going into a client's home and you're at the level of having to say no? And when I say no, I mean you have to give a correction. Yeah.
I think the most frustrating thing is like you said, it is a family, but people don't think about it through their dog's eyes. They think about it through them being a child. And what I mean by that is you're right. Like, I'm like Cheyenne, if she doesn't get good grades, she doesn't get to go ride her horse and stuff.
Yeah.
Like those are her consequences. Taking a dog's toy away, they don't know they have no idea what that means.
Right.
I mean, that being said, obviously, if the dog is going after you, we'll focus on that. But it's taking the toy away itself is not the punishment, because dogs don't understand that. So I think the frustrating thing is like teaching people that, like, they need to start thinking of, oh, what is a discipline to my dog versus what's discipline and what's like going to affect my children.
Right.
Because they, like I said, they are definitely, I mean, I consider my dogs my kids, but I mean, taking Murphy's tennis ball away, he would just be like, okay, well, I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
Yep. They don't associate it the same way as humans do.
Right.
So, yep.
I was going to add, because Mitt seems to always come up. Mitt is reoccurring, and just for our audience, for those of you that may be tuning in for the first time, Mitt was Joe and I's Italian Greyhound, and I think he was approximately 5 years old, and we recently had to put him down due to some blood issues that he had. But the point that I'm making here is dogs also have control of their discipline, on many, many levels. It's not, like I said in the beginning, a dog fight isn't a dog fight, and there's always one dog that's dead after the dog fight. It doesn't work like that. And case in point is when Mitt came into our household, he had a bold personality for a little guy, and we were out in the backyard, and we had some big knuckle bones for the German Shepherds, and
Mitt had one too.
Yeah, Mitt had one.
Yeah.
But he decided that he was going to go over and take our female shepherd's bone, or at least lick on it or something. Well, she didn't want anything to do with that, and I turned around in just enough time to see her lift him in the air and throw him, obviously with her mouth. And there was a great scream from Mitt. Well, it occurred to us that, well, we might not have Mitt much longer after this, but he was fine. He was absolutely fine. There were no broken bones. There was no internal damage. He was left with a couple little scars on his hide, but there wasn't any significant, long-lasting damage at all. And he took about 24 hours to gather himself. He climbed in the back of his house, and he stayed there for about a day. Yep. But we also did not coddle the behavior. Now you're going to be scared of German Shepherds the rest of your life. No, the following day, once we realized that, look, you're not going to die, you're going to go back out and you're going to work it out. Because that's the kind of household that we have. We just don't play into those types of behaviors.
Yep.
And so, again, dogs also have control from puppyhood, from the mother correcting the puppy, all the way up to and including, adult dogs.
Yeah.
And Chianti could have easily bit him in half, all 10 pounds of him. Could have snapped him. Didn't.
Yeah.
The
intent was not to kill him. The intent was to get him away from.
Yeah, it was a hard correction.
Yeah.
I would say he probably learned his lesson, because we never saw him go back. We never saw him go.
He was always respectful.
Yeah, he was very.
That, yeah.
He was very respectful.
Yeah, he was incredibly bold when he came in, so he was going to take on everybody to start with. Yeah, so I think you have to, as a human being, you have to have that control. You can't lose your self in overcorrecting your dog or being so angry. You shouldn't ever correct with anger. You shouldn't ever correct with frustration. You need to correct the behavior as the behavior is, and that is being in that moment just like a dog would be in that moment. They don't rev up to getting ready to bite you or get mad at you over my bone. It's in the moment. It's exactly what Mitt needed to get the clear picture, and that's how we should, and I'm not saying pick your dog up and throw him, but I'm saying meet the energy and have control with it. So this isn't about losing control, and it's not about being mean, and it's not about creating other problems because you become abusive and when you're just trying to correct your dog. So you have to be firm, but you don't need to be mean about giving corrections. So as you're working through your training and thinking about how do you tell your dog no, think through the eyes of your dog and what makes sense. If you do it twice the same way or at the same level and the same energy and your dog comes back a third time for the same thing, maybe that wasn't the right correction. So think about what is correction to you. How do you follow through? And please, if you have any questions, shoot them over to us. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you for listening. If you want to know more about us and our services, please visit our website at www.wsk9co.com. And as always, we urge you to get out and train.